What if a single wish could change your entire world? What would you sacrifice to bring peace to your loved ones? Let's find out. Silver Lake's Secret Part 1. A long time ago, in a distant kingdom surrounded by tall mountains and thick forests, there was a beautiful lake called the Silver Lake. The lake was special because at night it shone brightly under the moonlight, almost like it was made of silver. People believed that the lake held a powerful secret, and many stories were told about it. According to the legend, anyone who could discover the secret of the lake would be granted a single wish, but only if they had a pure and kind heart. In a small village near the lake, there lived a young boy named Finn. Finn came from a poor family. His father was very sick and couldn't work, so his mother had to work hard in the fields every day to take care of the family. Even though life was tough, Finn was always kind and helpful. He did everything he could to make life easier for his mother. But no matter how hard he worked, it never seemed to be enough. They were still poor, and his father's illness only seemed to get worse. Despite all these challenges, Finn remained hopeful. He loved his family and wanted to help them in any way he could. Often he would walk by the Silver Lake in the evenings to clear his mind. He found peace by the water, and sometimes he would sit for hours, listening to the wind rustling through the trees and watching the gentle waves on the lake's surface. It was during these quiet moments that Finn would dream about how he could help his family. The people in the village talked about the legend of the Silver Lake all the time. Many believed the story was just an old tale, but some, like Finn, wondered if it could be true. They said that a person with a pure heart might one day discover the lake's secret and be granted their heart's greatest wish. Finn often thought about what he would wish for if he ever had the chance. He wouldn't wish for riches or fame. All he wanted was for his father to be healthy again, and for his family and village to live in peace without the constant worry of hunger or sickness. One evening, just as the sun was setting and the sky turned a deep orange, Finn walked by the lake as usual. But something felt different that day. The lake's water seemed to glow brighter than it ever had before, reflecting the colors of the sky in a magical way. Finn stood by the shore, feeling a strange pull toward the water. Just as he was about to leave, something incredible happened. From the middle of the lake, a graceful swan emerged from the water. Its feathers shone like silver, just like the lake. The swan slowly swam toward Finn, its eyes fixed on him. Finn couldn't believe what he was seeing. As the swan got closer, it began to speak in a soft, melodic voice. "Finn," the swan said gently, "I know who you are. I have watched you, and I know that your heart is kind and true. Because of this, I will give you the chance to discover the secret of the Silver Lake. But be warned, it will not be easy. You must pass 3 trials. Only if you succeed will the lake grant your wish." Finn was shocked and excited. Could this really be happening? The boy had dreamed about finding the lake's secret for so long, but now it seemed the legend might actually be real. Without a second thought, Finn nodded eagerly. He was ready to take on whatever challenges lay ahead, if it meant he could help his family. The swan, with a soft smile, nodded in return. "Then follow me," it said, as it turned and began to lead Finn toward the center of the lake, where the trials would begin. Finn's heart raced with anticipation, but he was determined to prove himself worthy of the secret of the Silver Lake. Finn followed the silver swan across the calm waters of the Silver Lake, his heart pounding with excitement and nervousness. The moonlight reflected off the water, casting a gentle glow around them as the swan led him toward a small, mysterious island at the center of the lake. A thick fog hung in the air as they approached the island, giving it an otherworldly feel. Finn could barely make out the shapes of trees and rocks on the shore, but as they got closer, he felt a sense of magic and mystery filling the air. The swan stopped at the edge of the island and turned to Finn. "This is where your first trial will begin," it said softly. "Remember, the trials will test your heart. Stay true to who you are, and you will succeed." Finn nodded, though his stomach was in knots. He stepped onto the island, feeling the cold, damp ground beneath his feet. The swan glided behind him, guiding him toward a dark cave that lay hidden behind some large boulders. As they approached, Finn noticed a faint glow coming from inside the cave, a soft golden light that seemed to grow brighter the closer he got. "This is the Cave of Riches," the swan said. "Inside you will find more treasure than you could ever imagine. Take as much as you want, but remember, your heart will be judged by your actions." Finn swallowed hard and stepped into the cave. The moment he entered, his eyes widened in amazement. The cave was enormous, and everywhere he looked, there were piles of gold coins, sparkling, jewels, and precious gems. The walls of the cave shimmered with the glow of the treasure, casting a warm golden light throughout the space. For a moment, Finn stood in awe, unable to believe what he was seeing. He had never seen so much wealth in his entire life. His mind raced as he thought about how this treasure could change everything for him and his family. With just a handful of gold, he could take care of his parents, buy medicine for his father, and make sure his mother never had to work in the fields again. They could live in comfort, and the constant worry of hunger and sickness would disappear. He stepped forward, his hand reaching out toward a pile of gold coins. They were shiny and smooth, their metallic surfaces reflecting the light in the cave. "Just one handful," he thought. "That's all I need. No one would even notice." His fingers hovered over the coins, ready to grab as much as he could carry. But then something inside him made him stop. He froze, his hand just inches from the treasure. A thought crossed his mind. Asterisk, asterisk. Is this really the right thing to do? Finn stood there, his hand still stretched out, and began to think about the swan's words. Asterisk, asterisk. This is a test, he reminded himself. The treasure was not his to take. Yes, it could solve all of his problems, but deep down he knew that taking the gold would not be the honest way to help his family. What kind of person would he become if he gave in to this temptation? He thought about his father, who had always taught him to be honest and hardworking, even when life was difficult. His mother, too, had always told him that true happiness couldn't come from riches alone, but from doing what was right. Finn slowly pulled his hand back and let out a deep breath. No, he whispered to himself, this treasure isn't mine. It doesn't belong to me. Finn turned away from the piles of gold and jewels. His heart still ached with the temptation of the wealth, but he knew he had made the right choice. He walked back toward the entrance of the cave, the glow of the treasure fading behind him as he stepped outside into the cool night air. The silver swan was waiting for him at the mouth of the cave. Its eyes were calm and wise as it regarded Finn with a gentle smile. You have passed the first trial, the swan said. You were tempted, but your heart remained true. You understand that wealth does not define a person, and that greed can cloud even the purest heart. Finn let out a sigh of relief. He had been so close to giving in, but now he felt a sense of peace knowing that he had stayed true to himself. The weight of the decision still lingered, but he knew in his heart that he had done what was right. The swan nodded approvingly. Your journey is not over yet, Finn. There are still 2 trials ahead, each more difficult than the last. But I believe in you. You have the strength to succeed. Finn looked out across the lake, his mind racing with thoughts of the next challenge. The swan's words gave him a sense of hope, but he knew that the road ahead would not be easy. The temptation of the gold had been strong, and he could only imagine what the next trials would bring. Come, the swan said, it is time for your next trial. After the first trial, Finn felt both relief and anticipation. The cave of riches had tested him in ways he hadn't expected, but he knew he had made the right choice. Now, as he followed the silver swan across the shimmering waters of the Silver Lake, he wondered what lay ahead in the second trial. His heart beat faster as the swan guided him toward another small island that seemed to glow with a soft golden light. As they approached the shore, Finn noticed something different about this island. The air was warmer, and a sweet scent filled the breeze. It smelled like ripe fruit, and Finn's stomach gave a soft rumble. He hadn't eaten since he left the village, and the scent made him realize how hungry he was. The swan led him onto the island, and Finn's eyes widened in wonder. Before him was the most beautiful garden he had ever seen. Trees of all kinds stood tall and strong, their branches heavy with fruit that shimmered in the moonlight. Apples, oranges, pears, and fruits Finn couldn't even name grew in abundance, their vibrant colors contrasting against the lush green leaves. Flowers bloomed in every corner, their petals dancing in the gentle breeze. "This is the garden of fruit," the swan said softly. "Here you may eat as much as you wish. The fruit is sweet, and it will satisfy your hunger. But remember, this is a trial of your heart. Be mindful of your choice." Finn stared at the fruit, his mouth watering. His hunger was overwhelming now, and every instinct told him to rush forward and grab the nearest piece of fruit. He had been walking and working all day, and his body longed for food. The apples glistened with dew, and the sweet, citrusy scent of oranges filled the air around him. He hesitated for only a moment before he reached for a low-to-medium hanging apple. The red skins shone in the moonlight, and Finn could almost taste the juicy sweetness as he wrapped his fingers around the fruit and pulled it from the tree. He held the apple in his hand, feeling its smooth surface and the coolness of it against his palm. Just as he was about to take a bite, a thought struck him. Asterisk, asterisk. What about the villagers? He lowered the apple and looked around the garden again. There was enough fruit here to feed his entire village many times over. He thought of the people back home, the families who struggled just as much as his own, and the children who went to bed hungry at night. It wasn't just his family that suffered. Many in the village were poor and food was scarce. How could he sit here and eat while so many others were starving? His stomach growled again, and he looked at the apple in his hand. He was so hungry, and it would be easy to take just one bite. After all, the swan had said he could eat as much as he wished. But deep down, Finn knew that this trial wasn't just about satisfying his own hunger. The swan had warned him to be mindful of his choice, and now he understood why. Finn took a deep breath and slowly lowered the apple. He couldn't ignore the needs of the people in his village. They were hungry too, and many of them didn't have a magical garden full of fruit to feast from. His hunger could wait. There were others who needed this food far more than he did. Looking around, Finn spotted a large basket sitting near one of the trees. He picked it up and began gathering the fruit, filling the basket with apples, oranges, and other fruits that looked ripe and ready to eat. His hands worked quickly, picking the juiciest fruits from the branches and carefully placing them into the basket. With each piece of fruit he collected, he felt a growing sense of purpose. This wasn't just about him anymore. He was doing this for his village. As he gathered the fruit, he thought about the people he would share it with. His neighbors, the old couple who lived down the road, the children who played in the streets. He imagined their faces lighting up with joy as they tasted the sweet, juicy fruit. It would be a gift to them, a small way to ease their suffering, even if just for a short time. When the basket was full, Finn stepped back and admired his work. The basket was heavy with fruit, enough to feed many in the village. His hunger still gnawed at him, but he felt a deep sense of satisfaction knowing he had chosen to help others rather than satisfy his own needs. The silver swan, who had been silently watching him the whole time, glided toward him and spoke. "You have passed the second trial, Finn. You were given the chance to satisfy your own hunger, but you chose to think of others instead. Your heart is kind and selfless, and you have shown that the needs of many are greater than the needs of one." Finn smiled softly, though his stomach still rumbled. He was proud of his decision, even though it hadn't been easy. He had passed another trial, and though he was hungry, his heart felt full. "You have done well," the swan continued, "but your journey is not yet over. There is one final trial left. It will be the hardest of all, but I believe you have the strength to succeed." Finn nodded, ready to face whatever lay ahead. He looked down at the basket of fruit and asked, "May I bring this back to the village?" The swan nodded. "Yes, you may take the fruit with you. It is your reward for thinking of others." With that, the swan led him back toward the water's edge. Finn carried the heavy basket in his arms, the scent of the ripe fruit still filling the air around him. He was tired and hungry, but his heart was light. He had passed 2 trials now, and he knew the final test would be the most difficult yet. But no matter what it was, Finn was determined to stay true to himself and prove that his heart was pure. As the swan led him back to the boat, the garden faded behind them, and the island disappeared into the mist. Finn held onto the basket tightly, knowing that the real treasure wasn't the fruit itself, but the lesson he had learned, that kindness and selflessness would always triumph over greed and selfishness. After passing the second trial, Finn felt both weary and inspired. His body was tired, but his spirit remained strong. He had chosen selflessness over indulgence and knew that his choices were shaping him into the person he needed to be. However, the silver swan's words echoed in his mind. The final trial would be the hardest of all. Part 1 ends here. What challenge awaits Finn in his ultimate test? Will he succeed or fail? Can Finn unlock the final secret of the Silver Lake, or will the last trial be too much? To find out, click the video here or follow the link in the description.